Hi, my name is Joanna Whitney. I am an intuitive artist, an energy healer, and a student of natural law. And I haven't made a video for a while because I've just been regrouping what I was doing. What I was doing before now was I was trying to help groups of people to learn how to communicate, um, learn how to make decisions using formal consensus, which is in alignment with natural law. And then moving into sort of a prerequisite to that, which was to create community with love and trust. And then we tried to practice nonviolent communication. However, I'm taking a step back from that at the moment because I don't even feel like we're ready for that, honestly. I'm going to go back to what natural law actually is. Natural law is the unseen universal spiritual laws which govern the consequences of beings who have the capacity to know right from wrong. And somehow the globalist agenda has managed to really stamp that out quite a bit in our society. So that now they're trying to implement a satanic ideology into our mainstream thought, so that we become de facto Satanists. Because we, by implementing ideas through tell lie vision programming, like it's better to ask forgiveness than ask permission, things like that. They implement these ideas of de facto Satanism. And when I say de facto Satanism, what I mean is that we just adopt them. Like if we're not totally on the ball and thinking about what we're watching and what it really means, and thinking about it next to morality, the golden rule, do unto others as we would have others do unto us. It's very easy just to say, oh yeah, ask forgiveness rather than ask permission. That sounds good. I think I'm going to do that. And what is that actually? I mean, I've seen that on several shows. Honestly, I saw it talked about on several shows in a matter-of-fact way. And what that actually means is I'm going to steal from you and see if I can get away with it, which is Satanism, because it's the opposite of doing unto others as I would have others do unto me. Do I want others to try to get away with something and have me not notice it so that they can ask my forgiveness rather than asking my permission with regards to my property? I don't want that for others to do to me, so therefore I shouldn't be doing that to others. But that's what's going on out there. And the thing is that I think a lot of us are under programming and we don't want to admit it. Like, we don't want to believe that we've been programmed. But if you've watched TV to relax your mind, then we're programmed, honestly, because tell lie vision programming puts you into a delta or theta or alpha brainwave state, even a beta brainwave state, and then they can put in whatever they want. And if we're not thinking about what they're putting in, then they're installing their de facto Satanist ideas. And the satanic ideology is basically do what you want and don't get caught. Kill or be killed. They claim that the law of the jungle is kill or be killed, which is actually not the law of the jungle at all. But they want us to believe that animals are out there killing each other randomly and destroying their environment, when it's really just us that's doing that. Us, we humans, we're the ones destroying our environment. Animals, actually, we have a lot to learn from animals. I mean, I think the way animals raise their kids is a lot better than the way most of us raise our kids, right? At least how I was raised personally. I don't think animals are intentionally or they're not violent to their kids. They actually raise their kids, lift them up. Whereas I wasn't lifted up. I had to raise myself later on. So I'm taking a step back from trying to help organize community, and I'm actually looking more at learning, showing people or enlightening or shedding light on the idea of ruling the inner monarchy. In order to not need an outer monarchy, I need to know how to rule my inner monarchy. And from trying to do intensive work in the community, I've pretty much discovered that most people don't know how to do that. We can fake it pretty good at a potluck, but when it comes to down to the nitty gritty, we really don't know how to rule the inner monarchy so that we can get along with each other and support each other's freedom. So in other words, in order for there to be freedom in this country, each person must learn to rule their inner monarchy so as not to need an outside ruler. Because if I just have a bunch of wild feelings going on inside myself that I'm trying to soothe with various things like shopping or drinking alcohol or smoking weed or taking microdosing psilocybin, I'm not ruling the inner monarchy. I'm just distracting myself from my problems with my inner monarchy, my wild feelings that come from trauma, which, you know, the thing is many of us, I'd say a large percentage of us, since 80% recently it was recently disclosed that 80% of the population is on psychiatric medication. I would say that would mean that perhaps 80% of the population has childhood trauma from the age of 0 to 7, which is the formative years when your brain is being developed. And then we were re-traumatized. So whatever work that we did do, a lot of the trauma was brought back up during 2020 and the quote unquote mandates, the mask mandates or the jab mandates, mandate meaning strong suggestion, but many of us, many people in our society took that as a law and used quote unquote virtue signaling. That's the common cool way of saying it, to browbeat our neighbors into submission and called each other selfish for not wearing masks and not getting jabbed, which was just, you know, traumatized children who haven't grown up, who knew there was something wrong with what was going on, but would rather side with mommy and daddy than stand up for themselves, because that would require like looking at yourself and seeing where you have unresolved trauma. So looking more closely at this dilemma, if so many of us have suffered extreme trauma in childhood, as I personally have, for example, resulting in unprocessed or trapped emotions, and perhaps we have all sought a certain degree of psychological or spiritual solutions for our psychic pain as a result of this. So I'm sure a lot of us have done a lot of work over the years just to survive. Either some of us have been able to like figure out ways not to have to do that shadow work, and others of us, like myself, have had to do like a ton of shadow work just to be able to, you know, work and fit in at a job or whatever. And I personally have never really fit in. I've never really been able to fit in to society. And this all started because I was extremely traumatized during my formative years. So I've had to do a lot of work to try to just be okay in regular society. Perhaps some of us still suffer from anxiety, resentment, anger, fear, sadness, Perhaps some of us still take the edge off of our psychic pain using substances such as marijuana, psilocybin, or alcohol, while others choose to use nothing but a connection to God. So, you know, having those very difficult feelings, like like maybe having negative thoughts that talk about constantly pointing the finger at how groups of people have wronged us, or this country would be better if we closed the borders or whatever, or having thoughts like that that go through your head and unchecked, and actually believing those thoughts causes a feeling of resentment, which is a spiritual sickness. And the only way, a lot of times, a lot of people I think a lot of people find that the only way to relieve yourself of that feeling of resentment is to medicate it using alcohol, marijuana, psilocybin, etc. I mean, I've heard microdosing psilocybin is the new thing, which I think is probably preferable to taking um, pharmaceutical antidepressants or whatever. But personally, I would rather just know how to manage those feelings myself with spiritual solution. So what all this has revealed to me personally was that although I have done quite a lot of work over the years resolving a lot of trauma, I had not resolved enough to be able to use force against violence, which was brought to bear with the mask mandates. I discovered for myself that I was still looked in a lot of I was still locked into a lot of childhood trauma from ages 0 to 7, and I had to work through a lot of that in order to be able to stand up for my inalienable right of self-ownership. So, for example, this was definitely not taught to us in school or anywhere, that we have an inalienable right to use force against violence, and any act of aggression done toward us is an act of violence. And therefore, I have an inalienable right, even if I'm a pacifist, to use force against that violence. So, in other words, if someone comes up to me in a store and tells me I have to put on a mask, I have the right to use force against that. That's violence, a violation of my inalienable right to self-ownership, which is that I can decide what I put on my face or in my body. And the fact that they're a grocery store means that they have a public accommodation. Therefore, they don't have the right to tell me even to put my shoes on or my shirt on. That's what they used to force us to put on a face shield or a mask to buy stuff, but they actually don't have the right to do that. But what I discovered for myself was that trauma that I had not yet resolved came up in me, and I wasn't able to even talk. I wasn't even able to stand up. I wasn't able to have the courage to say this in an articulate way without becoming angry, and because of my fear of not being able to shop in a store. I noticed around me others who had the same trauma who were not willing to admit that they had unresolved trauma, and instead pointed the finger at each other as the ones who were wrong in the situation. So I haven't seen a whole lot of people who took advantage of this opportunity to grow spiritually and try to overcome their trauma. What I've seen is that the groups that got together continue to traumatize each other. I will say it took a lot of courage for me to admit to myself that I had still more work to do, and to be able to stand up for my rights calmly and articulately against the store manager at Natural Grocers, for example, and not to blame my fellows. I mean, it's not going to really get us very far if we're still blaming the masses, because that's no different than Henry Kissinger referring to us as the herd. You know, We are not a collective. We are individual sovereign beings, and each one of us has the inalienable right and the responsibility to do our own spiritual work so that we can rule our inner monarchy. And once that happens, once most of us are ruling in our inner monarchy, then we will be free. It's natural law. This took me on a new adventure with energy healing, in which is now solving that problem of releasing trapped energies, that I can find so that I can find my connection to inner strength to be able to stand up in my conviction against my natural law rights being violated. I'm going to be using a document that I've written as a basis for this series of videos, and I will post a link to it when it's available. The Oracle of Delphi states, "You who wish to probe the depths of nature, if you do not find within yourself that which you seek, neither will you find it outside. If you ignore the wonders of your own house, how do you expect to find other wonders? In you is hidden the treasure of treasures. Know thyself, and you will know the universe and the gods." So if you do not find within yourself, capital S, self, that which you seek, neither will you find it outside. So the powers that should not be want us to be seeking outside powers. They don't want us to know ourselves, because we're not good consumers when we know ourselves. They want us to be consuming distractions rather than knowing ourselves and being able to come into alignment with God, natural law. They don't want us to be able to do that. That's what I'm doing. I'm doing that because I'm going to fight against the tyranny. In you is hidden the treasure of treasures. Know thyself, and you will know the universe and the gods. That's the law of correspondence, as within, so without. So if I know myself, then I will know everything. I won't need to seek outside myself. However, therefore, ruling the inner monarchy is my goal. First, through releasing trapped emotional energy from childhood and the 2020 trauma, so that I can meet my brothers and sisters in the spirit of true freedom. In releasing trapped emotional energy, rebalancing organs, and releasing limiting belief systems, I make myself available to the God within me and the God within you. And to me, that is the basis of what is needed in order to rekindle the spirit of community, the desire to be with each other in an adult, productive way, so that we can work together to be strong and united in creating a parallel society